How are y'all doing? Are you good? Yay! Hey, if this is your first time at the Crossing, hi, my name's Kelly. I'm married to that really hot guy that was up here just a second ago. And I am super excited to talk about Shed Part 2. We were looking at our family schedule for the last couple of weeks, and I'd been planning on speaking, and then I was just like, no, I can't do it. I don't have the energy, whatever. Then last week, Eric was kind of putting the message together, and he looked at me, he's like, Kelly, this is totally your message. And I was like, yeah, I know it is. And so a lot of credit goes to him because he really did the bulk of the work on this. I just get the fun part. So I am really excited. So we're going to talk. I didn't see earlier because I wasn't looking. I was trying to text my daughter about making lasagna for lunch. So how many of you were here last week? You were here last week? Okay, good. So a lot of you, most of you, but there's a fair number of people here who actually weren't here last week. So we're going to do just a really quick review. So everybody say, let's review. All right, great. So there's a spot in your note sheet so you can write in the review stuff if you want to. But basically, this is what we started with last week. Don't worry, Jen, we do not have a photo, but we used to have a snake, a pet snake. His name was Weaver. We named him Weaver because he was little bitty when we bought him, and he would weave in and out of our fingers, so we called him Weaver. It's this really cute little snake. But the snake grew and grew and grew, and eventually we just got rid of it because, What we noticed about Weaver was as he grew, every little while, he would, because he was like this beautiful, like burnt orange color. He was a corn snake. He was a beautiful snake. I mean, if there can be such a thing. But he had this just shiny orange color. And every now and then, his coloring would just get really like dim and kind of grayish, and he would just get really faded and kind of gross looking. And even his eyes that were usually so bright would get kind of clouded over, and it was because he needed to shed. Okay, because as he grew, his skin kind of loosened and he was encased in just this excess crust. I know, so gross. You're like, why did I come to church today? So I could gross you out right before we even talk about anything important. But then what he'd do is he'd start kind of rubbing against the rock and digging down in the sand and stuff, and he would shed that skin, and he would emerge just fresh and clean and shiny again, and he could see clearly again. And we thought, this is a really great analogy for how life is for us. We get surrounded by so much excess crust and crap in our lives, so much that it clouds our vision and our ability to see what God has for us and to be able to move forward. And sometimes we just need to shed some stuff so we can kind of start fresh and clean with clear vision and be able to grow and move forward in life. Would you agree with that? Yeah, so we kind of use that story as a launching point to talk about our stuff that can just stick to us and clutter up our lives and cloud our vision and cause us to miss seeing Jesus and seeing what God has for us. So last week we started by talking about the American culture being a culture of stuff. Would you agree with that? That we are a culture of stuff so much. Now, like 3 people nodded their head and raised their hand. If you agree with that, will you raise your hand? Okay, cool. So this is great. This is my second time speaking today, and I'm starting to get hungry, so I need you to hang with me so I don't get bored up here and just walk away and go eat lasagna. So stick with me. So American culture is a culture of stuff. I mean, we are surrounded by so much advertising that tells us what we need to buy. We're surrounded by friends who have cool things that they tell us we really should get that. There's so much stuff that permeates our lives. And in my opinion, clutter is very stressful. Would you agree with that? Clutter is so stressful. It's so stressful in fact that we're always trying to figure out where to store it so we don't have to look at it, right? So last week we showed a few statistics that we found, and we're going to just share a few as we move into today. The first one was 1 in 10 Americans rent a storage unit outside of their home. Now, if you rent a storage unit, I want you to know there's no judging here. I don't know why you have a storage unit, and I don't propose to judge why you have that, whatever. We rented one for a few months a couple years ago, and you got to do what you got to do. But 1 in 10 Americans has a storage unit outside their home. And we were kind of thinking these are probably things that you actually don't need, because if you needed them, you would have them in your home, right? And we don't go get, you don't ever hear somebody be like, oh yeah, I got to run to my storage unit because there's something in it that I need tonight. That just never happens, right? The United States has upward of 50,000 storage centers, more than 5 times the number of Starbucks. 50 50,000, if you need a new business idea, you guys, that's it. Get some land, stick some storage buildings on it, put a security system on there, and start charging people rent to store their crap. That is brilliant. That is a great, somebody's like, oh, yes. When we were looking for a storage unit, like it took us a while to find one that was available. So I'm telling you, it's a good business idea. God's not telling you that, I am, so you have to decide if that's a good idea or not. Now, having stuff is not bad. Is that right? Everybody say stuff's not bad. Look at the person beside you and say, don't judge my stuff. Nobody's judging you. I don't want you to judge me. I don't want to judge you. This is about just evaluate where you at and where you at. And I grammar, evaluate where you at and what you going to do about it. So I don't even know where that, I'm from Alabama. So evaluate where you're at. And anyway, 25% of people with 2-car garages don't have room to park their cars in them. And 32% only have room for one vehicle. Again, no judgment. If you can't fit your car in your garage, just buy a smaller car, man. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. You got to do what you got to do. These are just stats we found. The average 10-year-old owns 238 toys but plays with just 12. You know what 138 of those toys are? McDonald's Happy Meal toys. You know, right? Free toy. That's not free. It cost me my sanity. I used to sneak in my kids' rooms when they weren't home and steal all the McDonald's Happy Meals toys and throw them in the garbage. They never miss them. They never miss them. They will not sit in counseling one day and be like, my mom threw away all my McDonald's. They're not. No, they're fun for 5 minutes while you're at McDonald's. And then they're just on the floor of your car. It's been a while since we've had those. We're getting old. That's what happens. Okay, so you would think that with all of the stuff that we own, that we have in our houses, that fill our cars and our storage units, we would be super happy, right? You would think we would be super happy. However, Psychology Today magazine says this: the belief that material possessions improve your personal and your social well-being permeates America. Everybody says, if you buy this, it's gonna make you so happy, you're gonna get to go off your meds, right? I mean, maybe it doesn't say that, but it kind of treats it that way. This is like the thing that will make you so happy. You know what I think will make me really happy right now? Have you seen these ads for this thing? It's like a multi-pack of reusable grocery bags, and you can just set it on your cart and just roll it out, and then you put all your groceries in them. I see that and my heart flutters. I'm like, I need that. I probably will never be depressed again if I have that. I haven't gotten it yet, but you know where I work. So, I'm just kidding. However, contrary to this belief, multiple studies show that materialists, those who are always seeking to get, compared to non-materialists, I've never met one, have lower social and personal well-being. Lower, actually less happy. Why? Because clutter is stressful. Clutter is stressful. Too much stuff is overwhelming. It sticks to us. We can't see clearly. We miss the blessings God has for us because we are overwhelmed with stuff and the desire to get stuff. But Jesus says this in Mark chapter 8, what good is it for a man to gain the whole world yet forfeit his soul? Gain the whole world. Is it possible to gain the whole world? No. But the pursuit of trying to gain the whole world, in that pursuit, you will lose your soul. You will forfeit your soul. It will suck you dry because it's never enough. It's never enough. It's a thirst that's never quenched. And then the debt rises and the satisfaction lowers and the stress gets higher and it just sucks us in. And I think most of us know how that feels. This feeling of needing more and never having enough resources for it and then using credit and then drowning in that. And it's just this crazy cycle, and it's because of the way that we think about stuff. So Jesus told a parable in Luke chapter 12. He said, the ground of a certain rich man produced a good crop. Let's just stop right there. Who enabled this man to have a good crop? Who? Okay, cool. All right. He thought to himself, what shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. Then he said, this is what I'll do. I'll tear down my small storage unit and build a bigger one, and there I will store all my grain and all of my goods. And I'll say to myself, self, you have plenty of good things laid up for many years. Take life easy. Eat, drink, be merry. But God said to him, you fool. This very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you've prepared for yourself? This is how it will be with anyone who stores up things for himself, but, everybody say, but, is not rich toward God. It doesn't say this is how it will be with anybody who stores things up. It says store things up, but is not rich toward the things of God. So we want to clarify, stuff is not bad. Scripture says every good and perfect gift comes down from God, the Father who makes the heavenly lights, okay? So the gifts that you have in your life, the things that you have, they are not bad things. I hope you get all of the good things that you want. I hope you get all of that because God gives good gifts to his people. So the problem isn't in the stuff, it's the way that we think about the stuff. And this guy, God is saying, God looks at this man and he says, you fool, not because he was rich, because who enabled him to grow rich? God did. So that wasn't the problem. God wasn't like, you fool, you're rich, you're bad. No, he's like, you are foolish because you've missed the whole point. And the whole point, God says, is I enabled you to be wealthy, and you left me out of the equation. Instead of sharing, giving some away, instead of expressing gratitude, instead of seeing it as an active, this act of owning things, instead of seeing it as this beautiful journey that you're on of give and receive and all of that, you just stored it in a bigger barn. So when you lay your pillow on your head at night, oh, I have big, huge barns full of stuff that I have stored up for myself, and I'm good. And God's like, you are a fool because you have no idea. In a blink, your life will be gone, and you will have nothing to show for it. You missed the point. Now, later, we're going to come back to another scripture verse that we're going to contrast with that, but we'll get there in just a couple of minutes. So we're challenging you to shed. Last week we talked about the letters S and H, and today we're talking about ED. So last week was shh, and this week is ED, which is great. The girl pastor gets to talk about ED. But letter S was separate the treasures. Everybody say separate the treasures. Separate the treasures. So that is, look at what you have. We challenge you to look at your belongings, look at what's in your house and in your garage and in your car and all of that, and determine what are the things that are true treasures, that are valuable, that you need, that bring value to your life and that you use, and then what are things that are not. And then H, heave the rest, or what Holland said was you should have called it heck to the rest. So separate the treasures and then heck to the rest. So how many of you have heaved some stuff this week? You got rid of some stuff, you shed. That is awesome. Way to go. That's so cool. See, we issued a challenge last week. This is in your seat back in front of you. So if you missed last week, you could grab this. It's the Trash versus Treasure Challenge. And it's like a goal of getting rid of excess stuff by giving it away to somebody else who will use it, donating it to a thrift store. You can help people by donating to thrift stores. I've spent many, many years shopping at thrift stores, and I'm always very grateful for people who donate really cool stuff. So we've donated we've taken 8 trips to the thrift store in the last week or so. Not because we filled our cars full, but because as soon as I get a box or two, I'm like, take it away. So we're challenging you to evaluate, have you used this in the last year? If you haven't, it's very possible you don't need to keep it for another year. So as I was shedding this week, I was looking in some boxes that when we moved a year and a half ago, I never unpacked. So that's a good gauge, right? Now it's mostly decor, like Christmas decor and stuff like that. And we moved into a smaller apartment with not a lot of space to decorate for Christmas. So it was some of those things. But this is what I did. I'm such a sucker for antique dishes and things like that. So, oh my gosh, I have a lot of them. So I would open a box, and if I was like, oh, I have that, then I would keep it. But if I open a box and I was like, I still have that, then I would get rid of it. And so that was helping me a lot. And I also, listen, it's hard when you've inherited antique things from the elders in your families. So I just realized this is on live stream, so I'm just not going to talk about it anymore. Some things aren't worth keeping. Okay, so anyway, But we were talking on Facebook about this, and Tanya, who works here, we were looking like, what are people giving away? What have you gotten rid of? She donated to a thrift store 180,000 strings of tinsel. She used to sell it like on eBay or something like that, and she just had all this excess. 180,000. We could have decorated the entire Elk River campus for Christmas with that. I was like, oh, Tanya. No, Shed. She literally typed. I was like, bye, Felicia. So there was a lady named Sarah on Facebook who donated 9.5 trash bags of kids' clothes, which was kind of crazy and awesome. I ran across something that embarrassed me deeply as I was going through a stack of papers. How many of you just feel like you drown in paper clutter? Paper clutter, ooh. I know we're supposed to get all that stuff electronically, but it just doesn't happen. Anyway, so I was going through a list or a pile of stuff, and I found something that I'm very embarrassed about, but since I don't embarrass very easily, I'm totally gonna tell you about it. It's a stack of thank you notes from Christmas that I wrote and never gave to the people. So if your names are Ross and Mary Carlson, Tom and Amy Kingor, Diana Washington, Ted and Terry Snyder, or Pastor Ted and Lisa Snyder, please come see me after the service. I have to tell you thank you for your Christmas present. Oops. So it's kind of fun what you find when you're shedding. So today, this is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about ED. So get your note sheet out if you haven't already, and I'm going to pray, and we're going to move forward in this. So Jesus, thank you so much for how you love us all, even when we're super unclassy and forget to send thank you notes for Christmas presents. And thank you for so much wisdom found in Scripture and just guidance to help us understand the things that are important and the things that are not. So help us to have a heavenly view. A spirit-led mindset, and just be able to honestly evaluate where we are in our approach to stuff. Let us see things as a gift from you and be able to appreciate the blessings that we have, but also to know when we're pursuing the blessings more than the blesser. And God, I just pray that you will help us to change the world through what we learned today. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, so here's the thing. Years ago, we did a teaching series called Rut Busters. Who was here for Rut Busters? You remember Rut Busters? We did a music video. Move, ditch, get out the way. Anyway, so we were talking about like getting out of the ruts in life. And the way you get out of a rut or the same pattern of behavior is to change your thinking, right? Because your thinking determines your decisions, which determines the outcomes that you live with, right? Thinking, decisions, outcomes. You can't just decide to make a different choice because we always jack it up and just make the same dumb choice. But if you change the way you think about something, it'll change your decisions and change your outcome, right? So what we don't want to do is come a year from now or a year and a half from now and find ourselves just as surrounded by just as much stuff, just as far in debt because we keep succumbing to the desire to buy more things and all of that. We want to change how we think moving forward. So the ED part of Shed is about changing our thinking, okay? Everybody say, change my thinking. Okay, good. So I'm just going to give you some stuff to consider. So the E is embrace experiences over stuff. Embrace experiences over stuff. Everybody say experience more. Experience more. So here's a quick illustration. At the end of the service last night, Pastor Silas and Becky from our St. Cloud campus were talking to me. Their son Riot's birthday was yesterday. Riot turned 9. Okay, thank you. He turned 9, and they said, you know, the experiences over stuff thing was actually what they chose for Riot. They told the friends or family, instead of buying Riot toys, can you please buy him experiences? So one of the relatives got him like 3 trips to like this ninja gym where kids can go do like the America's Ninja Warrior kind of stuff. And his parents gave him self-defense classes. And clearly they're trying to channel Riot's energy. But you know, instead of just more junk that they're going to have to clean up all the time and it's going to break, they're giving Riot experiences that are going to help develop him as a person, which is so cool and plus will be so much fun. So Forbes magazine says this, research from San Francisco State University found that people who spent money on experiences rather than material items were happier and felt like the money was better spent. I mean, at the end of the day, do you want to say, yeah, I bought a 60-inch smart LED TV and we watched the heck out of that thing? Or do you want to be like, I took my kids to the Dells for 2 nights and we had so much fun? Like, which one are your kids going to talk about 10 years from now over Thanksgiving dinner? Remember that time? We went to the Dells and we didn't have a lot of money, so we stayed in that really cheap motel and we all had to sleep on the floor, and then Jimmy slipped and cut his head open and we had to take him to the ER, and like, that's the memory, guys. Like, that's the stuff. I remember when we took our kids to the Dells when they were little, and I went to the thrift store beforehand and I bought each of them a little robe because I knew we'd be going from the pool to our room. And my memory in my mind was Aiden in his little blue robe, and he was like this tall, and his little legs just running as fast as he could to get to the water park in his little blue robe. And then Holland's had like faded cartoon characters on it, and Braden's didn't have a belt, because I got it from the thrift store. So I don't know how we tied it shut or if you just held it shut. Do you remember that blue robe? Yeah, that navy blue robe. I mean, I went and did that so that they were gonna, and like, those are the memories. And we endured a time chair presentation so we could afford to stay there, you know? Like, we did that thing. And our kids, we did that for a couple of years, and we were on a super tight budget then. But those are memories that our kids, they're always gonna have. They'll never sit around one day and brag about the TV that we had. Like, it's just not, embrace experiences over stuff. I was reading in the book of Ecclesiastes during the time when we were planning for this series, and I was like, oh, Eric, I love these verses, and I'm excited I get to be the one to talk about them. Ecclesiastes 2 says this: so what do people get in this life for all their hard work and anxiety? Their days of labor are filled with pain and grief. Even at night, their minds cannot rest. You ever lay in bed at night and just think about all the things you have to do? It's all meaningless. That's what I love about Ecclesiastes. Sometimes it's just like, it's all meaningless. It's so meaningless. It's kind of whiny. But anyway, so I decided there is nothing better than to just enjoy food and drink and find satisfaction at work. Screw it all. And then he goes, then I realized these pleasures are from the hand of God. For who can eat or enjoy anything apart from him? So the writer's saying, we work so hard at jobs we hate to buy things that we don't need. It's all meaningless. Screw it all. I'm just going to try to find satisfaction in my work and enjoy food and drink. And then I stopped and realized that that's what God offers us. He gives us these gifts that are called work, that brings us satisfaction and joy. And then food and drink that we can enjoy in the company of companions, in community. And suddenly, it wasn't just a screw it all work and eat and drink, but instead it was like, these are the gifts. Just think for a minute, are you stressed out, overworked, working 2 jobs, working a job you hate so that you can afford to buy things that you don't really need just so you can feel like you're a valid American consumer? I was just talking to a friend before this service who just made the decision to stop doing a job that was sucking them away from their family and just switch to the job, the one job that allows her to be home. These decisions are easy in theory because they make sense, but hard when it means that you don't have as much money to spend on the things that you think you need. So choosing to value experiences over stuff, it's a really important and countercultural decision. But here's a few thoughts. Here's just a few ideas. Simple things like dinner out or coffee with friends create lasting memories. Simple things like dinner out or coffee with friends create lasting memories. Now, how many of you are financially responsible people? Like, you're the money trackers in your family, you're the budget people, you'll clip that coupon, you'll look for the best deal. Okay, good. All right, so that's me. I grew up with no money. Like, we just did not have extra money. I never got anything new, like all of those things. That's how I was brought up. And so even going to McDonald's was a huge treat, and we always just got the burger and not the fries, okay? And we drank water. But Mom and Dad always got coffee. So that was a treat for us. So that means that now in my married life with kids, I struggled with resenting Eric's decision to take our family out to eat sometimes. because I'm like, that's a waste of money. We need to go home and eat the tuna salad that's in the fridge. And my kids are like, bleh, bleh, you know. But to me, that's a waste of money. It's not necessary. We have free food at home. Let's go home and eat. Don't waste the money. But then over the last few years or, series of years, I've learned to change my thinking and to realize that the value of sitting our whole family around a table together and allowing somebody to serve us so we can just focus on each other it's a huge thing. It's an investment in our relationships. Now, can we sit around the table at home and have the same kind of conversation and all that? Yes. And I love to cook. But I'm then up and down from the table trying to get everything ready, annoyed because people haven't helped me. And then when it's over, I have to run and hide in another room because they're going to load the dishwasher wrong. And instead of putting things in Tupperware, they'll put all the leftovers in the pots and pans in the fridge. All of those things. So, I've learned that there is value in just allowing us to sit down and enjoy that meal together. Another rant, I think paying $5 for a cup of coffee should send you straight to hell, okay? It is the wrong thing to do. It is the wrong thing to do, right? But here's the thing. Number one, I really do love coffee and also Starbucks. But I've realized that investing $5 in a cup of coffee and sitting across the table from somebody face to face and having a meaningful conversation can change my life. And it can change their life. And that time to look at each other and to just communicate and enjoy an intimacy and conversation that is so hard to achieve in our culture today means that $5 cup of coffee actually can be a much, much greater investment than we even realize in that moment. So, embrace experiences over stuff. Giving is better than receiving. I know you've heard it. It's far better to give than to receive. You heard that all growing up, whatever. But it's true. Giving is better than receiving. Just keep in mind the value and the worth that you feel when you choose to give. You probably don't remember most of the things you've bought for yourself, but you probably remember things you've bought for someone else. There is a beautiful supernatural thing that happens when one person gives to another. You're like, I don't know, I think you're being pastorally and stretching this one. No, let's just roll with it for a minute. 2 Corinthians 9, the writer is talking, or is it Paul? Wrote a letter to these people who gave, who gave. And he says this, as a result of your ministry, the ministry of giving, they, the people you gave to, will give glory to God. For your generosity to them and to all believers will prove that you are obedient to the what? The good news of Christ. You know what the good news of Christ is? The gospel. So by giving and being generous, we are being obedient to the gospel because the gospel is all about a gift. It is a free gift for us. For God so loved the world that he gave. There's something supernatural in the act of giving. And they will pray for you with deep affection because of the overflowing grace God has given to you to be generous. So the beautiful thing that happens when you're generous, when you give a gift, when you give to someone, is you receive the blessings from giving. They say, God, thank you. So you turn somebody else's eyes toward God because they see God in the gift. Right? And so God blesses you, he blesses them, meets their needs, they thank God, it builds their faith, it builds your faith, because sometimes we give out of not having a lot. It is a supernatural thing that happens when we choose to give. So don't neglect that when we choose to give to somebody else and bless them instead of just spending on ourselves, that experience can be life-changing. It can be something you never forget. I was in line at Target a couple of years ago, and I was just buying the last few things, a couple of gift cards, a few things, as gifts. So I was already buying gifts for people, and I was getting ready to pay, and before I could swipe my card, this tall guy goes, excuse me, let me get that, and he swiped his card instead. This deep voice, tall guy over my shoulder. I'm like, who are you? Because I did not know him, and this deep, scary voice. And I'm like, what's happening? And he just swiped his card before I got a chance to swipe mine. And I'm like, what? Do I know you? And he goes to our church, and I hadn't really met him. And he just stepped in and just paid for the gifts that I was getting ready to give to somebody else. And he and his wife told me later that they couldn't even express how excited they were to be able to do that for us. there's just something supernatural in gifts and in giving. And that experience is something that you'll remember so much more than just buying something for yourself. Here's another good one to consider when you spend money on yourself is feeling good is better than looking good. Feeling good is better than looking good. Think to yourself for just a minute, what is it that nurtures your soul? What is it that when you experience it, or you do it, you receive it, whatever, that like makes you feel like everything is right in the world? For some of you weird people, it's working out. I don't even, but, so if that's you, maybe your investment in a gym membership is really, really the thing. So for me, it's been that, but it's not right now, obviously. A couple years ago, we decided that it was going to be worth the investment for me to get a massage once a month because it helped my back. I carry so much stress in my back. You guys know I've had back issues over the years. Doing that, like every month when I get to do that, I literally lay there and thank God for the blessing that is. And it just makes me feel like I'm cared for. My husband cares about me to invest in this, and it's something that just blesses me. I do not resent Eric's fishing. I joke about it, but I don't actually resent it. You know why? Because I know it feeds his soul. To get away out into nature, like hurt living creatures, and I'm just kidding. Be alone with God, like he comes back a better person. So think about what it is that causes, here's another good one, marriage counseling. I don't want to spend money on that. Yeah, but you'll put new Flowmasters on your truck. Like, just think about it for a second. Do you want your world to be better or just louder? But I'm kidding. If you have Flowmasters, good for you. I always am very impressed when you drive by me really fast. But when we're looking at what we're investing in, like marriage counseling, I would never want to pay for that. Yeah, but we'll pay for this and that and the other thing. Think about what's valuable. What experience we invest in. Learning lasts a lifetime, right? Learning, what you can learn lasts a lifetime. It's never a bad idea to invest in books that will nurture your growth. Even good novels can change your life. Okay, not just learny books that you read with a highlighter, but good novels. There's an author I'm reading right now, and she always has a theme in her books about something like domestic abuse or eating disorders or things like that. It's kind of just a theme that's in there that helps me understand worlds that I have not lived in. And it helps me to understand how the thought processes work and and it gives me more sympathy for people, more understanding. Things like that change you. Taking classes, going to college. These are investments. These are experiences you can invest in that will change your life. Exploring new cultures, places, and opportunities alters you forever. I want to talk specifically to people who have kids right now. Exposing your children to different cultures will change them for the better. We have a major problem with racism in our country right now. We have a major problem with racism. You want to know one of the biggest reasons why? It's because people don't know somebody who's different than them. And when you don't know somebody and you've never experienced that, you just look at them, you don't understand them, you think that they're different, and so then you hate. People hate. But you take your kids, go take your kids down into North Minneapolis, go to Midtown Global Market and eat some Middle Eastern food. See some people walking around with burqas. You'll find out they're just like us. They want to raise their kids and be safe and have a happy family. Yeah, they want to worship God, their way, that's fine, but they're just people. And when we insulate our kids in our little White Elk River, you know what I'm saying? And we don't expose them to any kind of a greater world, and their only exposure to diversity is on television, which they never know if it's real or not, then they're closed-minded and they're insulated against the realities of a beautiful world full of diversity that God's created. So intentionally take your kids to places where they can experience other cultures. What if we get shot? You're probably more likely to, there's so many other ways you're more likely to die, okay? So stop worrying about that. just to go experience other cultures. We encourage you to go to Haiti and meet our kids at our orphanage there. It will change you forever. We encourage you to take your teenager with you because that will teach your kids about other cultures and see how other people live. We invite you to go with us to Israel. And yes, that's an investment. Haiti's not as much money. Israel is quite an investment, but it's an investment that will make, every time you open your Bible, you will read it differently. Every time you watch the news, you will watch it differently. You hear somebody talk about Israel and Palestinian relationships, and you will understand that on a level that so many people don't. There are so many things that exposing yourselves to other cultures can deal with, or it just can affect. But what happens in Minnesota is so many people have these cabins. You have these cabins, and so the cabin's great. Maybe you would inherit it from your grandma, Ethel, or something. But here's the thing. When it comes time for vacation, where do you have to go? To the cabin. Why? Because you got to mow the yard, and you got to repair the septic, and you got to, do whatever the things are. And so and I'm happy for you and your cabin if that's what you love. But last night I was talking about this, and there was a couple sitting about right there where y'all are, and they were nodding their heads like, I thought their heads were going to fall off. They were nodding so hard about the cabin. They had just sold their cabin because they couldn't go on vacation anywhere else because they always had to go and deal with that. Sometimes things we think are treasures become weights around our necks. And we think we can't let go of it because of the history or all of that. But what we're doing in the meantime is holding ourselves back from experiencing a really beautiful world. So you don't even have to go out of the country. Just go to Minneapolis. Go to St. Cloud. Go to Alabama. That's a culture shock. For those of you who don't know, that's where I'm from. And it's very different. And my parents will totally let you stay in their trailer for free. I promise you. And they will feed you biscuits and gravy. And then my dad will make you help mow the yard. But, I am not kidding. That's literally not a joke. My parents will totally take you in if you want to go visit them. But Northeast Alabama is beautiful. The mountains there, the Smoky Mountains, Tennessee, Georgia. Go to the beach. The closest beach is Galveston. Don't go today. Not a good day to go there. By the way, if you want to contribute to hurricane relief, go to our Facebook page. We have a link to our friends down there that are doing the work. But expose yourself, your kids, to other cultures and other places. It broadens your scope of the world. It teaches you to love people and to appreciate how just the variety of people and cultures that we have and foods and all of those beautiful things that are gifts from God that we miss when we get so stuck on buying the next phone or the better couch. You see the difference there. So the D is drive your purchases with a higher purpose. Let that purpose drive your purchases. We're all going to spend money somehow, right? Some things are non-negotiable, like the rent and the electricity, but then other things are negotiable. There are other things we make decisions how we're going to spend that. So it's important to identify your purposes, identify your values. When you identify your values and the things that matter, then you can choose to throw your money behind those things instead of letting it slip away to things that don't matter. Luke 16:9 says this, here's the lesson. Use your worldly resources to benefit others and to make friends. Then when your possessions are gone, they'll welcome you into eternal homes. Now contrast that verse with the guy at the beginning who had to build bigger storage units. Because when he went into eternity, he had nothing to show for it, for his life and all of his work. But this says, if you use your worldly resources, your money, your home, to benefit others, to make friends, to build relationships, to make connections, then when all of those earthly temporary things are gone and you walk into heaven, you will be greeted by people who you helped to get there. And that's what this church is about. We're an outreach church. We're always about trying to help one more person cross the line of faith and follow Jesus. And we use our whole lives to make that happen. So when God looked at that guy in the story earlier and said, you fool, you've missed it. I blessed you so much, but you missed it. In this verse, Jesus is saying, don't be foolish and miss that I've given you worldly resources and stuff and money and blessings so that you can make connections with others and you can bless your world and make it a better place and ultimately move people to Jesus. So here's a couple questions to ask yourself. Does this purchase improve my world? Does it improve your own personal quality of life? Not like, can I watch it in higher definition, but actually and maybe that's important. If that's important for you, great. If that's what you decide is important for you, Great, okay? I don't want you to judge my lifestyle, and I'm not going to judge yours. I just think it's important that each of us decide what is important to us. So does this purchase improve my world? Is it just another one of something I already have that actually isn't going to make a difference? Or is it something that will... Is there something in your house that just bugs you? I'll tell you what bugs me that I fixed yesterday. My kids' shower, the bottles of shampoo are always all over the floor of the shower. I'm like, how do you even shower in here? There's like just all this stuff on the floor. I don't understand. Like Holland has 7,000 bottles of shampoo and conditioner. Actually, it's all shampoo because she always runs out of conditioner, and that's why I don't have any, because she goes and gets it. And then Aiden has... So Holland has shampoo, and Aiden's a 15-year-old guy. I don't think he uses anything in the shower. I'm not really sure, but I don't know. But so yesterday, I was shopping with my gift card from y'all for my birthday. So I'm in Home Goods walking around like, I got money to spend, but I'm preaching about shedding, I'm no hypocrite. So I'm like, what do I need? Not what do I want? Because there was so much stuff I wanted. There were candles and wall art and all the pretty, pretty things. And I'm like, I need to buy things that actually I need, So I got my kids one of those little shelves that goes in your shower that you can put your shampoo on. And I'm like, I did something that will change my world. Like it mattered. I didn't even go in the aisles of all the pretty, pretty things because I didn't need any more pretty, pretty things. I'm shedding those. Not all of them, but some of them. But, like we have decisions to make in the moment, and we can just mindlessly, that's nice, toss it in the cart. I was somewhere else recently. I was like, here's a gift. She was like, here's a gift with purchase. It's a throw, a soft throw. And I'm like touching it like, oh. I'm like thinking to myself, I have at least 5 of these. I do not need to add this gift with purchase, So I was like, no, it's okay. Just walk away. Shop at places that help others or have values you care about. There's a brand of shoes that I will not buy because I do not like the decisions that company has made. That's just me. I'm not even going to tell you what it is because I'm not a soapbox about it. It's not like it's something I'm going to promote, even though I could yell really loud about how much I hate this company. But I don't hate. I love everybody. But I don't like a decision that they've made, and so therefore I won't buy their shoes. To the extent that recently Holland really wanted a pair of their shoes because they would serve this purpose and that purpose, whatever. I was like, I don't like this company. I literally bought her 2 pairs of other brands that would serve those 2 purposes instead of that 1 pair because that's how much I didn't want to spend money on that brand. So you had to decide what matters to you. There are lots of companies, organizations that do good in the world that you can buy from. We usually always have stuff here in our shop, jewelry from Haiti that invests in their economy and organizations, all that kind of stuff. So just think about that. Here's a question to ask yourself. How can I use my home to care for others? How can I use my home to care for others? Scripture talks about choosing to be hospitable and to open your home and welcome others and that stuff. Some of you, how many of you are like party throwers, hospitality people? I want to cook for you. Please come to my house, all of that. Okay, so there's a special group of you that is like that. I'm like that, except that my job involves pizza. I'm really hungry. My job involves people so much that usually when we get home, we're like, lock the doors. So, I mean, you just need your home to be your haven sometimes. And so, did I actually make you laugh? That just doesn't happen very often. Thank you. I did not say that. I was just trying to wake you up because you were looking kind of bored. I was nervous you were going to play on your phone over there. Senior ADD there on the front row. No, you're doing good. You laughed. It's good. I love that. That's great. I don't know what I was talking about. Hospitable. Okay, so here's the thing. Some of you want to serve other people and you want to have parties and you're like all set up for that. Others of you, you're like, yeah, not so much. Partly maybe because your home has chaos. Do you know what chaos is? CHAOS. Can't have anyone over syndrome. Oh, you know what? I would love to have you over for dinner, but it's just chaos. Can't have anyone over syndrome. You're like, you're on your way right now? Okay. Kids! Quick! Shove everything in the bathtub, put it in the closet, stick it under the bed, whatever. Hurry, stick it all in the dishwasher, stick it in the oven. Just don't turn it on later and forget. We've done that. I mean, yeah, we've done that. So the worst is when you leave saran wrap in there on accident, then you turn it on. That's just nasty. Don't forget that blessing your family is not less spiritual than blessing an orphan in Haiti. All right, so Christians, generously minded people sometimes can fall into the trap of thinking it is more spiritual to buy one of Christy's orphans a pair of shoes while your kids have holes in their shoes, or to build the orphanage and your bathroom door doesn't close. So think for a minute about creating a place in your home that is a haven for your family and those who live there. Because remember, your home is the platform from which your family all steps out and takes on the world. And you want it to be the one safe place, the one reliable place, the place where they know they're safe, where they're taken care of, where there's not chaos, where it can be a safe, it's that haven from the rest of the world that assaults us all the time. So maybe think for a minute about getting your dishwasher repaired. Maybe think for a minute about, fixing that thing. So when you drive up to your house, you don't go, "Oh, I just really need to fix the siding." Just go ahead and fix the siding. You're like, "Well, it costs a lot of money." Okay, well, figure out what you may need to say no to so that you can get that done. Do the things that improve the well-being of yourself and your family. And I don't know, you might be like, "She just drove past my house on the way here." No, I did not. I don't know where you live. I don't know your deal. I just know what we've experienced. And recognizing that repairing those things communicates value to the people that we live with. So speaking of that, saying no to one thing to say yes to another thing, this is not in your notes, but I added it later so you can write it down. It's invest in this, not that. Have you ever seen that book, Eat This, Not That? It's just because when you say yes to one thing, what are you saying to something else? No. There's always a yes and there's always a no. There's always an opportunity cost. When you do one thing, you're giving up the opportunity to do another. So when you have your purposes in mind and you're evaluating, you need to understand that if you choose to invest in this, it means you're saying no to that. When you choose to invest in this, you're saying no to that. So always keep in mind that there is a yes and a no. If you're not a numbers person, not a money person, and all of that, when you spend some, it means you don't have it for the other thing. I have to say that to Eric now and then because Eric's like, "Money?" And so he'll be like, "We need to do this or buy this." I'm like, that means we're going to have to say no to something else. And he'll be like, "Yeah, you'll figure it out." So, you got to figure out what works. Then ask yourself this question: how can I use what I have to be a blessing to others? How can I use what I have to be a blessing to others? Because remember that as believers, we model a life in relationship with Jesus, right? And Jesus says in John chapter 10, verse 10, in the NLT, I like this version, Jesus says, "I have come to give them a rich and satisfying life." He doesn't just say, "I've come to save them from hell. I've come to conquer their addictions and their problems." Jesus goes all the way from just survival to thriving. He says, "I have come that they may have a rich and satisfying life." And what makes up a rich and satisfying life is involving God in the life that he's given us and recognizing that it's not just about us, but it's about how we can change the world and make it better in the process of receiving and being grateful for and then sharing. And recently we saw a quick, just a little news piece that we thought was so cool. We wanted to share it with you of a guy who did just that. Watch this.
Do it. So there's a retired Minnesota judge, and he couldn't stand the silence in his house. His longtime wife, had passed away. So this is what he did. This 94-year-old judge, Keith Davidson, he had an idea. The neighbors thought he was kidding until the cement mixer pulled up. Judge Davidson had a 32-foot swimming pool installed in his backyard and then decided he was going to invite all the local kids to come over anytime they want it, make it their own. Of course, they have to bring a parent. So Judge Davidson, he had no grandkids of his own, but he loves taking in the sights of the kids enjoying his pool. So he's got a swimming pool full of kids.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that the sweetest?
That's fantastic.
Right?
That's fantastic.
I love that idea. Good for him. And he seems to enjoy it so much.
He's loving it.
So cute.
Isn't that cool? Isn't it neat to just recognize that there's something you can do to bless your world, and then just do that, and then just watch how it touches somebody's heart? Those kids are never gonna forget that old guy that gave them a swimming pool, in that moment. And maybe we can't, we don't have the resources to put a swimming pool in and invite the whole neighborhood over. But we are always given small opportunities to just share what we have and to have an open hand when it comes to our possessions. So today I just want to challenge you to just open your mind to the possibility that God has so much more for you than just acquiring more. That as he blesses us and we do acquire, that we always should be looking for ways to make our world better with what we have. So just a quick reminder, S, separate the treasures, heave the rest. Maybe that even means heaving things out of your schedule, things that just don't matter. Embrace experiences over stuff. Drive your purchases with a higher purpose. This, not that, because of what really matters. So then when you lay your head on your pillow at night, not like that rich guy who built the bigger barn saying, I've stored everything up so I can lay down and rest because of what I've done. Instead, you lay your head on your pillow and say, I've received so much from God, and I love doing life with him and letting him take me to good places and make the world a better place. I'm going to pray and we'll be done. Jesus, thank you again for all of the blessings that you've given each of us, whether it's a great big $500,000 house or just a very small apartment. Each of us has been given a relationship with you. We've been given the provision that we currently have. Let us be faithful with it. Let us not find our security in stuff and in resources, but find our security in you and live with an open hand so that we may give, we may receive, we may not be caught up in the things of this world, but carried up in the things of you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.